I used to laugh at my mom for being technologically hopeless. She'd tap the wrong buttons, open 20 tabs at once, and somehow turn the volume up to max every time she tried to lower it. I'd roll my eyes, sigh, and grab the phone out of her hands. Mom, just give it here. My name's Noah Reed. I'm 28 now, software engineer in Seattle, but this story takes me back to when I thought success meant distance. Distance from the small town I grew up in, from the people who raised me, and from the mother who taught me everything without ever using a computer. Growing up, we didn't have much. Dad left when I was 12, and Mom worked double shifts at a diner just to keep the lights on. She wasn't educated, but she was proud, too proud to ever let me see how tired she was. When I got into college, she cried so hard she couldn't even speak. She handed me a secondhand laptop wrapped in brown paper and said, "It's not fancy, but it's a start." It was slow, missing keys, barely held charge, but she'd saved for months to buy it. That laptop was how I built everything, my degree, my career, my future. And somewhere along the way, I forgot the hands that gave it to me. Once I got the job in Seattle, I called her less. Work was busy, life was hectic, and my excuses were endless. She'd send me texts like, "Good morning. Ate breakfast? Don't forget your jacket. Seattle looks cold today." Sometimes I'd reply with a thumbs up, sometimes not at all. And every time she'd mess up her phone again, posting in the wrong chat, sending blurry selfies, or asking, "How do I join the video thing?" I'd feel that familiar irritation. "Mom, I don't have time for this right now," I'd say. She'd laugh softly. "Okay, beta. I'll figure it out," except she never did, not until the day I found her search history. It was last spring. I'd gone home for the first time in over a year. She'd fallen and sprained her ankle, so I came to help. Her phone was on the table, cracked as always, screen glowing faintly. A notification popped up. "Storage full. Delete old searches?" I tapped it, meaning to help clear it out. And there it was. Her YouTube history, every single video, was about me. How to make your son proud of you. How to use phone to text pictures. How to check if my message was read. How to send voice note to busy son. The last one stopped me cold. It was a video titled, "How to Stop Missing Your Grown Child So Much." My throat closed up. For the first time, I saw what all those tech mistakes really were. Not confusion, not incompetence. They were effort. Her way of staying connected to a world that had left her behind. To a son who had, too. I sat there, holding her phone, reading every search, every attempt, every late-night curiosity. And then I listened, really listened, to the last voice note she'd sent me months ago. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, her voice soft, cracking at the end. "Just wanted to say I'm proud of you. Even if you don't call much, I know you're busy. Just remember to eat, okay?" I broke because I realized she didn't want attention. She wanted connection. And I'd been too busy looking at screens to see the love right in front of me. That night, I fixed her phone, taught her FaceTime, and promised I'd call every day. Now, I don't care if she still forgets how to mute herself or if she accidentally turns the camera to the ceiling. Because every time I see her smiling face on that tiny screen, I remember the search history that broke me and healed me at the same time. After that visit, I drove back to Seattle with her cracked old phone still replaying in my head. Her voice, her laughter, those innocent questions she'd once asked me, all of it haunted me in the quiet hum of the highway. You'd think guilt fades over time. It doesn't. It just waits, quietly, patiently, until something small tears the scab open again. For me, that moment came 2 weeks later. It was a Sunday morning, and I was buried in deadlines. My team had been preparing a product launch, a new AI assistant for better communication. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't hurt so much. My phone buzzed on the desk. Mom. I silenced it, told myself I'd call back later. 5 minutes later, she called again, then again. Then she stopped. I didn't think much of it, figured it was another accidental dial, another tech mistake. That evening, I finally checked my phone. 3 missed calls, one voicemail. I hit play, half listening as I brewed coffee. Hi, sweetheart. Her voice came, faint, breathy. Just wanted to say goodnight. I made your favorite, dal and paratha. You used to say it tasted like home. I'll save some for when you visit, okay? She laughed softly. I watched a video on how to make it better. I think I finally got it right. Click. End of message. I stood there in my kitchen, coffee dripping onto the counter, realizing how long it had been since she'd said that. When you visit. Because I never did, not since that sprained ankle visit. Not really. Work swallowed me. One project blurred into another. I told myself I'd go home after the next deadline, after the next raise, after the next important call. I didn't realize she'd been counting days, not projects. A month later, I got a call that wasn't from her. It was from Mrs. Jacobs, the neighbor who used to babysit me when I was a kid. Her voice shook. Noah, honey, your mom's been in the hospital. She collapsed at work. They said exhaustion. She's stable now, but I didn't let her finish. I just drove, 8 hours straight. When I reached the hospital, Mom was asleep. Her hand, thinner, paler, had IV tubes taped to it. The nurse said she'd been skipping meals, working double shifts again. She kept saying she didn't want to be a burden, the nurse whispered. She mentioned her son a lot. My chest tightened. She woke up around midnight, saw me sitting there, and smiled through the oxygen mask. Hey, sweetheart, she rasped, voice hoarse. You came. I couldn't speak. All I could do was hold her hand, the same hand that once guided mine over my first computer keyboard, and whisper, I should have come sooner. She smiled weakly. You're here now. That's enough. But it wasn't enough, because I knew how many messages, how many calls, how many good nights I'd ignored. And in that hospital room, with the steady beep of machines and the smell of antiseptic in the air, I made a promise. No more missed calls. No more later. No more excuses disguised as ambition. When I finally brought her home a week later, she showed me her phone again. Same cracked screen, same tiny fonts. But this time, there was a new notification on top. FaceTime scheduled with Noah every night at 8 p.m. She'd learned how to set a reminder, and for once, I didn't fix it. I just smiled and said, perfect. A few months passed, and things slowly went back to normal. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Mom was recovering. The doctor said she needed rest, and I promised to visit every weekend. I did, at first. But life, it has a way of pulling you back into the noise. Deadlines, meetings, calls that couldn't wait. And somehow she slipped into the background again, like a soft song playing under city traffic. One night, I got a text from her. Beta, how do I send a video on this phone? It keeps saying, too big, I was in a meeting. I typed, later, Mom. She replied with a heart emoji, the only one she knew how to send. That was the last message I ever got from her. 3 days later, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Unknown number. This time, I answered. It was Mrs. Jacobs again. Her voice cracked through the static. Noah. She didn't wake up this morning. The words hit harder than any noise I'd ever heard. Everything inside me went silent. The world went quiet, except for one sound, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. When I reached home, her phone was still on the bedside table. Same cracked screen, same faded case. I unlocked it. She'd never changed the password. My birthday. There it was, a draft message, a video, unsent. I pressed play. The screen showed her sitting in her kitchen, wearing her old pink shawl, the same one she used to wear when she'd make tea in the mornings. Hi, sweetheart, she said, smiling shyly into the camera. I was just watching one of your interviews online. You looked so handsome. I was so proud I showed it to the whole staff at the library. She laughed softly. I wish you'd come home soon. I made your favorite dessert. Even watched 3 tutorials so I wouldn't mess it up this time. Her voice trembled at the end. Oh, and don't worry, I'm learning this new phone. I'll get better. Next time we'll video call properly, okay? She waved. I love you. Then the video ended, frozen on her smile. That was the too big file she'd been trying to send me. She'd spent hours learning how to make a video, just so she could show me how proud she was. And I didn't even have time to text her back. I sat there for hours, watching it over and over, as if maybe, just maybe, she'd start talking again. But she didn't. When I finally closed the phone, it felt like closing a chapter I'd never get to rewrite. The next morning at her funeral, I played that video for everyone. People cried. Some smiled. But I just stood there, holding her phone like it was the most precious thing I'd ever owned. Because it was. That cracked little screen held every I love you I'd missed, every good night, every unreturned call, every moment I'd taken for granted. And for the first time in my adult life, I realized something that hurt deeper than grief. She never stopped trying to reach me. I was just too busy reaching for the wrong things. After the funeral, I couldn't bring myself to go back to the city right away. Her house, my childhood home, still smelled like her. Fresh laundry, sandalwood soap, and that faint hint of cinnamon she always sprinkled on her tea. Every corner whispered her name. The clock in the living room still ticked, though the house felt frozen in time. I sat at her table, the one with the burn mark from when I'd spilled soup as a kid. Next to her old phone lay a small envelope with my name written in her careful handwriting. Inside was a note. Just a few lines. Don't feel guilty, my son. You did what you thought was right. I just hope you remember to slow down sometimes. Life isn't lived on screens, it's lived in moments. Greater than I love you, always will. Greater than Mom. The ink had smudged a little, like she'd been crying while writing it. I pressed that note to my chest and broke down. For every later mom I'd ever said, for every call I ignored, for every chance I'd wasted thinking there'd be another tomorrow. When I finally went back to my apartment, I couldn't stand the silence. I deleted every meaningless contact, every work chat, every app that had once felt important. Then I changed my phone's wallpaper to a still frame from that video of her smiling. Now, every morning before I rush out, I whisper, "Good morning, Mom." Every night before I sleep, "Good night, Mom." And when my phone rings, no matter who it is, I answer. Because one day, that call you think can wait might be the last one you'll ever get. This story isn't about regret. It's about remembering that love doesn't wait for your schedule. It waits by the phone, hoping you'll call back. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure her voice, her lessons, never fade again.